We've got 30 seconds. He's participating via Zoom. All right, let's call this meeting City Council meeting being held on July 9th, 2025 at the new temporary Doraville City Hall. Welcome. I will call the roll. Councilmember Evans, did you make it on?
Here.
All right. Councilmember Henshaw?
Here.
Councilmember Armistead?
Here.
Councilmember Kuntz?
Here.
Councilmember Simmons?
Here.
Councilmember Ray?
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. I'd like to ask everyone who's in the room to rise and please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, would anyone like to make a motion approving tonight's meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discuss-
I actually have a discussion item, sorry. And Mayor, I'll make it your call if you want me to remove the item or just ask the question of staff briefly and
Just
get clarification.
for the meeting agenda, not for the consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Any other discussion? We can pull that off or discuss it, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
But any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, we have a proclamation that I think is in the apologies to everyone in the room. We're still figuring out the setup here. This is a little bit awkward because I'm standing here, but my back is to some of you, so we'll figure out these growing pains as we go. But I think we have some folks from the Parks and Recs department. You guys want to come up and join me? Yes, let's give them a hand. And I just want to say what a great job actually Recreation and Parks does to just help make the city of Doraville a more welcoming place. We had the senior lunch today. I know that behind the scenes, you guys did yeoman's work to help our folks who run that get everything going and cleaned up afterwards. I've heard great things about the summer camp. So there are all kinds of programs for people from elementary school all the way till retirement age. Our Recreation and Parks Department does it all. And that's why it's important to recognize July as Recreation and Parks Month. And that the U.S. House of Representatives first designated July as Parks and Recreation Month in 1985 to recognize the importance of building strong, vibrant, and resilient communities through the power of parks and recreation. Recreation and park services are crucial to the total well-being of communities throughout the United States, including Doraville. Recreation programming creates space for residents to improve their social, emotional, and physical health. Doraville's recreation programming aims to support its diverse residents by providing opportunities for all ages through our partnerships with YMCA Early Childhood Development for preschoolers and our Healthy Hearts workout classes for our seniors. Parks and open spaces provide our community with environments that allow for time to be spent in nature, which positively impacts emotional mindsets as well as physical well-being for all ages. And Parks and Recreation contributes to a healthier and more connected community by offering inclusive programs, maintaining accessible public spaces, and serving as safe gathering places for families and neighbors. The Doraville Park staff have committed their unwavering support to the Doraville community by celebrating Doraville's diversity. They are shaping the lives of children through summer camp and encouraging activity programs. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Joseph Geierman, Mayor of the City of Doraville, Georgia, on behalf of the Doraville City Council, do hereby designate July 2025 as Recreation and Parks Month, and I encourage all of our citizens and other residents to enjoy our neighborhood destination parks and to participate in the various activities hosted by our Recreation and Parks Department. And my honor to present this to you all.
Thank you.
And I'd like to invite you to say a few words too, Billy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be really quick. Today, I just want to recognize two very special people who are part of our Parks and Rec. We have Miles Allen and Maya Anderson. Both of them have grown up in the park. The City of Doraville Parks and Rec Department gave them their first job. And I just want to let you know, not only do we grow spaces, we also grow leaders. Thank you.
I'd like to just say thank you to all of the staff because my kid has been attending the Doraville camp, summer camp for a while now, as well as the spring and fall break camps. And he comes home exhausted and tired and happy every single day. So thank you guys for everything you do.
All right. All right. Next up, we have public comment. So the way this works for anyone who hasn't been here, just come up to the podium, state your name and where you live, and you can have up to 3 minutes to speak on any topic you wish.
Hi, my name is George Cheedy. I am a staff writer for The Guardian. I live in Pine Lake. I'm here. Look, I've been a city council person in Pine Lake, and I'm doing this as kind of grandstandy sometimes. Usually I can solve a problem or get an answer by sending an email. However, I've sent email to the police department and I have yet to receive an adequate response. And I think it's important that I be seen asking the questions of you that I am asking today. About a month ago, I was at a protest in Embry Hills, at which another journalist was arrested. That journalist is Mario Guevara, and I'm sure you're sort of generally familiar with the issue. Mario Guevara was live streaming to 1 million people when a Doraville police officer arrested him on relatively minor charges at the end of a protest that had been breaking up. Charges that were subsequently dropped by the solicitor. And he's been in first from charges that Gwinnett laid out of nowhere, and now we're not even sure why. He has an immigration issue, but he also has a work permit, and he's been in the United States for 20 years. He is a prominent journalist and also one that's been very critical of immigration enforcement. That arrest, and in particular, after looking at the body cam video from a Doraville police officer and his own video, shows that when he was arrested, there was another police officer with him, and that police officer was wearing unmarked fatigues and a gas mask, and we can't identify him. But given everything we know about the manner in which ICE has been operating, it is question that I have to put about whether or not that was an ICE officer and whether or not that Doraville police officer laid those charges as a pretext for ICE to deport a critic. If that's the case, well, then that's because this has become an international issue. He's just asked the El Salvadoran government for assistance. I write for an international publication. Trust me, like the 50 million people who read The Guardian are interested in why he was arrested. And given the context in which other reporting has indicated that Doraville's police department has been conducting flock camera searches on behalf of ICE, one has to ask what the relationship is between Doraville and immigration enforcement, and whether or not there has been a a coercive request by ICE of Doraville for this cooperation. I appreciate you. Thank you.
George.
All right. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Well, there's people here too.
I'm Bacon, and you could just call me burnt crispy bacon. And those protests, right? I'm not trying to cross talk or anything, but the protests that these communists, I'm not a fan of the police at all. But the protests that these communists staged, the DeKalb County Board of Commissioners ordered a review of it. The police declared them of any wrongdoing. With that said, Mr. Guyman, I just want to just say thank you for the diversity, equity, inclusion that you have brought to our city. With that said, I see a lot of things translated when I come to City Hall and throughout the city. And that signifies that y'all know that the government knows that the majority of the people, residents in the city speak Spanish. Spanish is either their first or second language. So yeah, we know that, right? Duh, right? Duh. Okay. So why weren't the rezoning signs posted on Oak Cliff Estates? Why weren't they written in both Spanish and English? We're trying to have inclusion, right? We're trying to have inclusion. Why weren't the signs written in both English and Spanish? Everything else, all we had, this fun stuff, everything else that's fun is written in both English and Spanish. But this very important thing that's about to take place was not written in English and Spanish. This violates, I believe, the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. So I think it would be best for the city to redo the hearings, start all over again. Because y'all, in effect, the government of Doraville, in effect, excluded the majority minority. Everybody, y'all need to redo this, Mr. Mayor. It has to be in English and Spanish. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else in the room? All right. Yeah, please go up, state your name, where you live.
Hello, my name is Matt Hunter. I live in Decatur, but I work in Doraville. I also didn't want to make a public thing about this, but I was asking. I called the police department to ask, and also tried to make the city clerk to chat individually, but her voicemail was full. So I didn't know if this was a question answer thing or if I just make a statement. Okay, I didn't realize that. So I guess I'm looking at didn't know other people were going to be talking about the protests and things, but with ICE coming in, the immigrant population in our community, pretty abundant here. I imagine pretty near in the future, there's probably going to be some large shows of forces or public spectacles or other like media spectacles that they probably try to create in our area, if I had to guess. So I called the police department to ask if there was any sort of public meeting or hearing to just touch base with the community as far as like what we might expect, or if y'all are coordinating with the federal government, that they really like, I don't know really what ICE is doing kind of thing, talk to the city council. So that wasn't very encouraging. And I know that, when people come with a mask on and without badges, that's just kind of terrorizing and fear provoking for people. So I would expect violent responses. And I think that they're probably looking for that in a certain way. So just thinking forward as far as our community goes and trying to prevent violence, I would hope that maybe we could have some sort of meeting that the public could attend to kind of help brief people on like, hey, this is the communication we have or haven't had. This is what we might expect, or this is where we stand, so that we're not just like, people are in kind of fight or flight mode, I think. And also, the mask thing, I know there's other places that are looking for, have laws against the mask or making sure that they have badges or something. Kind of a response of someone coming at you and labeled and things like that, not knowing what department they're from. That seems like a public risk that could open up the possibility of people that aren't federal officials coming in if things do start to get to where this is happening often, people worrying about getting abducted and things. And if they have children or other people around, even very nonviolent people might end up being violent, and we don't know where people are being taken. So this is just a big concern. So I would hope for some solidarity from the city council, or at least the police department, to know, where everybody stands, so that the community can maybe relax a little bit, and not feel like they have to take it into their own hands violently when this may or may not unfold. Probably will, if I had to guess.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, we have someone who's raised their hand on Zoom. And Tom, once you're added to the meeting, please state your name and where you live.
Tom Hart, Gordon Heights. Wow, I didn't know I was going to have to follow all that. And that the last person was up there. Are the protesters, they're wearing masks? Do they have to have their little logos too, like American Communist Party on the front? Or I'm really confused about that. Anyway, the main focus tonight, somehow we have this explosion of public art. Okay, and who asked for that? I don't know. But it's really strange when you have the person in charge of the grass police that's supposed to be looking after all this gang tagging of buildings is now in charge of gang tagging the buildings. Okay. And so we're going to have this $100,000 crap going on Motors Industrial right next to this $1 billion studio complex. And right next to a MARTA station. Next thing we're going to do is change Motors Industrial to Martin Luther King Boulevard. Okay. I mean, the apartment building that faces Beaufort Highway, the person doing that mural wants to change this from a suburban deprecated situation to, urban to suburban. And the odd thing about the irony here is that building itself is built on a spring-fed stream that somebody illegally put into a pipe, and then they build the apartment building on top of the spring-fed stream. And now the artist is going to take this urban blight and turn it into suburban, landscape. Where was she when it was a green space and an open stream? Okay. This whole thing, and then the art department runs the city. Okay. You can't build anything unless you got something painted on the side of something. Okay. And then we're paying rent. Does the police department pay rent, or code enforcement pay rent? Certainly the art department, how much money are they paying to rent this building? And there's a lot of questions here. And the city's tax money is being just flushed down the drain. And now we're going to gang tag the whole city. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I see there's another hand raised, but before we get to it, I saw Mr. Livingston standing up. So if you want to come up and just state your name and where you live, just to the podium.
My name is Charles Livingston, and I live in the Oak Cliff area on Green Oak Drive. And I just turned 89 last week, and I've lived in the neighborhood 57 years. And it is my understanding that this meeting was basically to be about zoning changes that the city is wanting to make over in our area that would allow people to come in and build some multi-story apartment buildings or whatever. I don't know anything about it except that it's happening. Is that true?
We can't have a back and forth, but
What?
we're not talking about that today.
Are you going to be talking about this?
No.
Huh? I thought
Next
the
week.
meeting was to be talking about this.
Sir, I can't have a back and forth with you, but it's next week.
You what?
I cannot have a back and forth discussion with you, but that meeting will be next week.
Well,
It's 1 week from today.
It was today, but we're
1
not
week
talking.
from
We're not
today.
talking about that.
You feel free to use this 3 minutes to talk about it, though. This is
A
your
week
time
from
to talk
today?
about anything.
Weeks from today, we're going to talk about this.
Again, but you can talk about it now as well.
Yeah. Well, while I'm here, I've been here a long time. And I used to come to council meetings. Since my wife had a stroke 12 years ago, I'm not able to do it much. And I am very this city in that you people up here doing what I think you should do. You won't enforce codes. A lot of these areas are looking so bad, it's just unbelievable. A guy that I know you're familiar with because you get emails from him all the time with pictures is Tim Schneider. And he's taking pictures all over the city of infractions, people parking on the lawn and 5 or 6 cars and multifamilies. A lot of these places are boarding houses. The neighborhood just looks like the pits. And he sends you all of these pictures and everything, and you won't do anything about it. I don't understand it. I've been here a long time, and it is the worst now it's ever been in the 57 years that I've been here. And I don't understand where you're coming from. You need to enforce codes. That's what they're all about. But you won't do it. You won't let the coast people do their job. And it's our neighborhoods are suffering from it. And I'd like to see you, talk to your own conscience a little bit and see where you're coming from. You're not representing the people that elected you. There's a whole lot more you can do, but you're not doing it. Well, when we have the meeting next week about what I talked about, the code changes in our area, I'll have something to say about that too. But I'm a concerned citizen. I care about this country. I care about this town.
Thank you, sir.
The town
That's
is
3 minutes.
pots because you guys are not enforcing codes.
Thank you, sir. That's 3 minutes.
Oh, you know where I stand.
Great.
But I'm a patriotic citizen. I care about the country. I care about this city, and the citizens are getting a short shift on it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. All right. I think there was one more person who had their hand raised. So Dawn, once you're able to unmute, you can state your name and where you live.
Yes, Joseph, it's Dawn O'Connor, Northwoods. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I wanted to just make a few comments about traffic calming. I saw the Zoom meeting, or Zoomed on to see the June 11 meeting because I knew you guys had decided about, took the poll about the roundabouts. First of all, I want to thank Chris LaFleur for doing a wonderful presentation at that meeting, talking about the things that didn't work, and also not giving up on the fact that we do have to come up with a way to calm traffic. Some people liked the roundabout, some people didn't. I have to agree with you, Joseph. I think the people that maybe didn't like it because it made them stop. But I do applaud Chris for staying with this and realizing that I'm the one who actually petitioned for us to do the traffic calming. This is why I'm questioning it again. Since this didn't work, we came up with other alternatives that we could try. And I thank Carrie for mentioning that Addison, the much feared and dangerous Addison, is a place that we could certainly try something else. So instead of shifting our focus now to other areas, I think we ought to consider looking at Northwoods a little bit more and coming up with another alternative. If it's not the right thing, we could try something else. I think that's what we agreed upon. So what I would like to know or to have on the agenda is what comes next for Northwoods. We're not done. The traffic is still horrible. Addison is still an absolute nightmare. And I would just like to know what comes next. I did hear about e-bikes, but there hasn't been anything posted about what comes next. So thanks to Carrie and also Chris LaFleur. And thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. We're going to close public comment. I'll bring it to the consent agenda and I'm aware that Councilmember Evans has a question about one of these items. I don't know if you guys want to answer the question during the discussion or just pull it off.
I'll just make a request to approve it, removing item A.
Second,
To remove item A or to move it to discussion?
To
remove
discussion.
to new business.
I'll
Right.
second that.
We have a second. All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? All right. All right, city manager report.
All right, start out with the city center project. As you may know, power's off to all the buildings over there currently. We walked the site today. I walked with Choate and one of our engineers in Georgia Power, just looking at the disconnects. So that's physically pulling the wires from all the buildings and removing the poles from PD up to New Peachtree. There's a series of poles up through there. So we will completely
If we're gonna have crosstalk, please take it outside.
so we'll clearly get everything out of the way. Georgia Power was very responsive. They were good. So that was a good meeting this morning. Environmental reports, we're doing the surveys of the building. We get that next week. Primarily looking for lead and asbestos. We got a couple older buildings that will show up. Talking with Choate, then they'll decide how best to do it. Not too much in the weeds, but if it's all over one of those older houses up there, then maybe you just take the whole thing down and it all goes, or they tear out individual pieces. Just know we've kind of landed on the floor plan. So architects working on that. We'll actually get layouts and more detailed for that as well. And we should have some exteriors for you to look at next Wednesday. So that's moving as well. And back on the demo, probably just get past vacations and everything else. Maybe we plan the first week of September. I think would be safe talking with them out there today, because it will take a little time to do the remediation. That just makes it safer, but stay nimble, but not the last week of August. Punch list for this building is Crystal's done a great job staying on that. We did move in. All this happened amazingly quick. So there will still a few items left. But things are happening. Dispatch will crank up tomorrow. It's been nice enough to give us a home for the last couple weeks, and we'll crank up here. The exterior signage, hope you saw, that's in the process. So I already got some of that. They'll be working again tomorrow and Friday and hopefully get that wrapped up. Same with interior signage, work on that, some wayfinding in the building, which is part of what you do. Generator, we're working on some options. Chief's been on top of that. We're just running up like everything else with lead times on getting stuff here. So that is one thing we got to work on. And we also mentioned that to Georgia Power today, because some of their transformer leads are 52 weeks, magically a year. So we were that was a conversation between Choate and Georgia Power. So we need our engineers to go ahead and spec that, what exactly size we need, and get it ordered. So that going on as well. Sanitation side, as we all know, we've made the changeover. With the exception of one neighborhood, it does seem to have gone fairly well. Public Works done a good job with the bulk items, white goods, and everything else. I'm not getting complaints on that around town, and that was the number one complaint we got typically on DeKalb stuff. So we're picking that up. We're going to install a second pad and screen in Aspen Woods. Should have it in by the end of next week at the bottom of the hill, and set another dumpster there. So one at each end, which should help. So, and to give you ideas, just the volume of what we picked up right at 100 tons of bulk item materials the first full month. Our Public Works department did that. One of the issue with the cab too, but I think we've got a couple that are maybe more highly visible, just with evictions. We'll coordinate between Public Works and Code when we see them. But part of that process is those items have to sit out for a week. I mean, that's just the law. So it's not great for having to look at or anything else, or what people do to someone else's possessions. But it kind of is what it is. So, but we'll work on that too. And that's part of the process, working with Code. They'll try to get hold of the property owner and say, hey, look, into 7 days, get it gone. Or our bulk item removal fee for somebody that's $450, or you can take care of it yourself. So to try to get ahead of it the best we can. And we are in the newly annexed area, found, a regular single family house that was chopped up into a quadplex. We've had some other issues. Another house converted into a duplex. It was owned by the mosque. 2 houses over there connected to 1 septic tank. So working with environmental on that. Budget process is moving along. Budgets are due from departments next week. The Beaufort Highway Safety Action Plan, that final draft is together. It'll come to you guys in August for your approval. I know there's been, or at least I got one email, but Aztec Road's closed. That's for the new high school. They're just running a new water line. That was actually, could be blamed, but they were trying to figure out some way to do it. I said, just close the road, get it done. And hopefully it's only gonna be a week or so, because they're trying to do traffic control and everything else. And with school out, I think it works better. Just knock it out. And it's actually safer for the subcontractor doing the work. Again, recreation's doing well. Full camp. We got a movie night at Honeysuckle this Friday, The Wild Robot, which I think you have a family connection in. And then our new recreation coordinators on board. So we're looking at some youth pickleball, esports even, and a 5K for youth. And we're about 2 weeks out on restrooms. Somehow they missed on some ADA doors, so we got to get those in. PD's already started doing some planning with area folks for the World Cup, as far as viewing parties, watch parties, those type things. Assembly has talked about hosting those, so we'll see. FIFA definitely controls those. You're writing them a big check if you're doing a viewing party, so they can work that out. One of the issues talked about in communications, Emily's been working and has found a couple of vendors with texting services for communication stuff. So looking at those where you can buy a list, almost like back when you could buy a mailer list, buy a list. And then we would still give the option for people to opt in as well to make sure they're in, because I'm sure they're going to miss some. Public Works, we have an emergency repair we got to do on Pin Oak. If you've seen, there's a pipe failed underneath Pin Oak. It's not simple. There's 2 pipes through there. So one's like with a creek and the other's with that. So it's got to be engineered. It's not something we can do in-house. And so we may the approval and then bring it to you. We'll get pricing and everything, but we need to get it fixed. But we're pushing our engineers to get it designed so then we can get it out to contractors and get it bid. But it's going to be a few weeks when it's closed out there. And the old theater HVAC is in process. And am I allowed to, I don't want to steal your thunder, but they came up with an idea for a name for it and the theater group, but I kind of like which was cool. So Crystal was asking what the process, I have official process, but it would be cool if it was called The Ring, and then we could have some signage and whatever. So if y'all want some formal something, or we can go with The Ring, but with the legacy there and everything else, I thought that was pretty cool and it tied together. And again, we're getting settled in here. Everything's definitely not on the walls in everybody's offices, but everybody's doing pretty good. If you go next door, you'll see Dart's got all their stuff in, and we've started with some books and stuff on shelves for the library space. So a lot going on.
Right. And I guess I'll just say that in terms of naming the building where the theater company is going, I don't think that building necessarily had a name. before. So I think I'm happy for them to call it whatever they think makes sense. I think the Ring is a good name, but I guess if council decides they want to weigh in, they can. I guess I really just wanted to ask you, we had a conversation earlier this week about adding an extra dumpster or doing something over at Aspen Woods. Have you guys?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what that
for-
was. Maybe I wasn't clear, but yeah, that's what that pad is. The pad and the enclosure that we're putting in by the end of next week is for an extra dumpster at Aspen Woods.
Okay.
Sorry. Did I say that? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's gonna be down there at the bottom of the hill. And I just said, we'll kick it out like 18 inches from the curb line. That way stormwater
There's
could
not
still
gonna be
flow
any
behind it.
water issues.
No, we'll just kick it out and that way it can run the curb line and it should be fine. And it's closed. They don't jerk plugs in them, so it
Okay.
should be fine. And out there, it's the best
All right.
amongst the choices, I think.
I agree. All right. Well, let's see what questions council has. Councilmember Evans?
Thank you, Mayor. Is the library reopened or it has a set date to reopen?
No, we don't have a date yet. We talked yesterday. Part of we'll just see what we got. Part of the issue is the shelving, which had been asked budget times a few times, and I'd said no wait, we're going to do whatever. But a lot didn't survive the move, so we're kind of seeing what we can make work on shelving. But we're still a few weeks away.
Gotcha.
They're working through it over there, sweating in the back on the loading dock.
Gotcha. And then the e-bikes that the police have now, have those been put into rotation or assigned officers or anything?
I don't think yet. I know they'll do some training or something, but they've been busy moving too. So they've been all hands on deck moving everything. But we got the bikes, and Chief knows he's got to get somebody trained up to ride them.
Great. All right. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Kuntz?
No, my question was going to be about the theater. I'm glad to hear the HVAC's getting in, and hopefully, by the end of the month or so, we think we'll have it all like.
Yeah, and I think they were trying to do a something in September, so they're eager to get in.
Right, and get it, because they got to do.
They got to do all their painting and
Yeah, they got to do all their stuff.
Yeah. And there were a couple little small things they hit Crystal up for today, but it was small stuff we can do in house. So I think they're fine.
Is there any ADA issues with that building?
We did the ADA bathrooms, and then it's flat entrance, so it should
Okay.
be fine, flat, wide open. So
Cool. No,
should be
great.
good.
No, I'm just making
a lot
sure
better
we don't
than where
get
they're
tripped up.
coming from.
I'm just making sure we don't get tripped up on that.
Yeah. No, it's a lot better than
And the Ring's a cool name. Thanks, Crystal.
being in the basement.
We talked about that the other day. And no, that's a cool name. And I got no problem with just calling it that. I don't think we need to get into some policy thing about,
I like simple.
I like simple too. That's all I got. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Ray?
Yeah, thank you. For the second dumpster in Aspen Woods, can you make sure that when they pour that pad, they go ahead and pour like a step up like they did for the second one? For
Yes, I will let the floor know because they'll probably be in there this weekend. But
Okay.
yes, so
Yeah,
that
because we
people
had to
can
go
get
back and
it.
do it for the first one, so I want to make sure. Has the neighborhood been communicated with that a second one's coming at all?
No.
Okay.
We just hammered that out this morning,
Gotcha.
2 hours ago.
Are there any plans to send out flyers or send somebody to knock on doors or anything like that?
What would you like?
Imagining that.
Yeah, we need to do it. It needs to go where it's going. Can we tell them this is what we are doing?
Yeah, I think you have to say.
No,
This is just it.
No, they just need
It's
to-
not
I'd rather them know it's coming. as
Yeah, I'm
opposed
happy
to
to.
a concrete.
We
truck
can
just there.
put something on everybody's door.
Yeah.
We could do
Yes.
that before they come out and pour the pad. That would be better.
Yeah,
And
that is coming.
way-
We have interns.
Okay. Let's see. Along with that, okay. So one of the concerns I heard from Aspen Woods is that the dumpster's filling up due to possibly illegal dumping. Is there any evidence of that? Is it a possible concern now with the second one? Because I don't want to just keep.
I'm sure it
dragging-
happens. I mean, it's up to us to try to keep an eye on it as best as possible. And if there's somebody that sees it happening, I mean, call the police. I mean, they can take care of it. 911.
Okay.
It's fine. But I mean, I can't camp a officer out there 24/7, but
For sure.
there's a lot of folks that are doing work as carpenter. And I mean, I would imagine even some of the residents are throwing their stuff in there.
Mhm. Yep.
what you do.
Um,
Not that I would have ever done that.
no, of course not. Along or staying on Waste Pro, now that we're getting through the move, I know there's still a punch list, but could we start looking at possibly working with Waste Pro to provide some like recycling bins behind the city building for people to go to if they don't want to pay for the subscription fee to recycle? Do you think that's something
I just,
possible?
I'm afraid you're going to go back to having the same thing. And if you don't have somebody sitting there watching what is going in them, it'll be commingled with trash. I mean, that's
Mhm.
the danger. I mean, I lived for years in Pickens County, South Carolina, and they had the recycling centers, but they were manned. And that's the only way they kept a clear stream was they had somebody there watching everything that came in and segregating it into glass, plastic, and everything else. But I think if you do a line of bins, it's people going to throw trash in them.
Okay, I'll put more thought into that.
I did get, because we hadn't been recycling, but they gave us 2 free for here. So we will be internally doing a better job. So they provided those to us. But yeah, I just would never recommend putting anything out that's not manned
Mhm.
because people are going to dump.
Okay, I'll put some more thought into that. Last question. So I'm happy to hear about the texting services being looked into. We talked, I think, last month about looking into some larger signs that we could possibly like post at, key thoroughfares or points for people to catch updates as they drive by. Any?
And we'd even looked at talking, I mean, this is be budget time because those weren't cheap that we did, the 3 that we did. But, at one point we talked about putting another one at Brook Park and Autumn Park and some other places around town. I mean, that's up to you guys to talk at budget time. And I'm not happy with the quality of the digital signs we got. I'd like to change those boards out. They look like light brights. I think we could do better quality, but I mean, that's something for y'all to decide during budget time because, we're still waiting on MARTA to work with Georgia Power for the last one up there on Beaufort Highway.
Okay, I'll take a note.
But
to do
that's one, pick those and then, hopefully people would get used to looking at them.
Sounds good. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. Shelving. I heard you say something about shelving before I get into my questions. Just get with me. I might have some free shelves for you.
Okay.
I know I had some previously, but I don't think we moved at that time. It was the law office all down.
Yeah.
So if you can come get them, I think I can get you some for free.
Okay. We'll check them out. It's all safe.
And then what Councilmember Ray was saying about the recycling, I mentioned last month about the cardboard one where we could put it at a business and you were saying it gets commingled. How's the glass one doing at Tower?
I don't know. I've never heard from them. I thought they were all gone today because I was just driving around town looking at stuff and they've moved them around the corner over there. So I don't know if they were having issues or whatever, but I've never heard. And I've wondered what they actually,
and how does
where it
that work
goes.
financially? Do they just put it there and it's included in our price? Is that how it worked previously with the glass?
For Tower?
Yeah, the glass.
We don't get, that's all them.
Okay, so Tower does.
Yeah, that's them.
Control.
That's got nothing to do with the city or anybody else.
So sort of to go on what Councilmember Ray was saying, what I said last month, maybe we can talk to them about doing a cardboard one. Just, because we get cardboard and glass and then everyone else figure out plastic.
But yeah, I think I'll also say that's something that we as individuals
Yeah.
could go to.
Okay, if it's
to
on
the-
us, that's
the-
fine. I'll be
'cause I think
happy to.
I think that might come better than like it sounding like the city
You have to, yeah.
pressuring them to do.
That makes sense.
And I know just from experience, but I mean, somewhere like Lowe's, Home Depot, somewhere like
The
that,
farmer's market.
they have somebody buying it from them typically, but they're getting a clean source of good cardboard and
Yeah.
somebody puts the bin in, they put the compactor
bale
in,
it.
got the volume. But it's all about the quality of the product, just like anything else and
Yeah.
what you're gonna get. And there's a difference between corrugated
Mhm.
and pasteboard. And if you're throwing the pasteboard in, it doesn't have the value of the real corrugated cardboard.
No, that's fine. I'll go talk to them. Okay. Generator, you saying you weren't sure what generator was here? Was this the one we approved?
Yeah, you already approved it, but it's a 5-month lead time.
Yeah. but
now
we know what the engineer wanted, right? Because that's the one we approved was the kilowatts.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah. We just don't have a generator and we're about to have a dispatch center up that will not operate when the power goes out. So what we're
Right,
looking at doing is if we can go ahead and wire up the connection here,
Mhm.
and then we can work with a local rental place
Yeah.
that we could grab one of their tow behind generators and plug it in and plug and play. So that's what we're trying to do and not burn money
Yeah.
twice to hopefully we can have the engineer design whatever plug-in that works fine once we get the in-place one.
It's a few more months. We ordered it back then, right?
Yeah, it's like 5
Okay.
months.
Le-
We're 5 months out
Okay.
for the Cummins. We got the Cummins. Now it's 7.
Nice.
7 total.
Okay. Well, I was just making sure. I
Yeah,
was like,
that's
we
what we're working
ordered
on.
it
So
before
we're
we
trying to look, because in the past I've done that at fire stations. We didn't want to maintain generators all over the county. So we just wired in the plugs, knowing if a
Mhm.
hurricane came, we could go lease the units and plug them up and
Yeah, they
go.
put it on a transfer switch and
They're you just don't want to keep them all over the place. But for here, it makes sense for dispatch.
all right. To shout out to Public Works, that website does look good for the white goods bulk pickup. It looks like decabs actually. When I saw it, I was like, huh, that's good. Update on restrooms, the parks and cameras. I'm guessing they go hand in hand, right?
2 weeks. And it was something about ADA doors and they had messed up something. So
Oh.
the contractor.
Do you mind if I, like, what's
No, go
the
ahead.
landscaping around those going to be like? So it looks like a mess right now.
Yeah, it is a mess.
It's the last thing.
We'll make it look nice.
So wait, what's this about the doors? Not 36-inch or 32?
It may have been
It's the handle.
the
You-
handles
the
or
handle
something.
needs to be
Yeah.
a lever and not a knob.
Yeah.
Right.
They messed it up, not us. I mean, it's not on us, but it
That's
is
easy.
holding us up.
Gotcha.
And I think Flock's got everything in.
Okay.
But I get the reports. I mean, there's something going on with the camera every day. So I don't want you to think every single camera every day, but we get reports. I mean, we got in town now, 200. It's probably close. There, we got between that and the shot detector stuff. It's way up there. Yeah. So we're always getting maintenance updates.
All right, I'll get with Crystal on that ADA thing. So the camera, is there a camera at the dumpster at Aspen Woods? Do we
An
have?
unofficial one.
Okay. So we can pull license plates on that for illegal dumping. That's good. Any update on Motors Industrial with Peck and Wood and the engineer? That's who it was, right? Peck and Wood?
Yeah.
It shows the
So they're
design.
going through whatever percentage of design. The last thing I heard from Assembly, they were okay with it. They have not want them to contract directly. That was the last conversation I had with Justin, was contract with Keck and Wood, and then to manage the contract, because they can negotiate. I can't negotiate. I got to bid it out. They can work with Bailey or whoever they have.
So
over there.
we can pass it to them and let them.
So they were, yeah. So we've only paid one bill for survey work, which
Yeah.
I'll go try to get that out of Assembly, which it shouldn't be a problem. But then the rest of it, they pay directly. I didn't want the city on the hook as the middleman.
Okay, and once we sort of have this, are we going to sort of give them a polite timeline, or are we just going to see what they do and then?
They have a very strong incentive to get this done, because I think they're waiting on another tens of millions of
Okay.
dollars for you to approve.
They
to
have some
accept.
fire. Okay, good.
Yes, they've been told you will not accept any more streets, any more of the quote public work under the TAD until this is
All right,
going.
cool.
The only carrot I held out to them was if it's under contract, under construction, that council may consider doing that at that time. 6-9 months construction period.
All right. And I heard the budget from all the department heads are coming up. Can we get a budget meeting with us a little before then? We have to approve the budget in the next meeting. It's not like a week or two ahead.
Yeah,
So
you
we
got
can
until
think
what,
about it.
September? You got the requests are due next week, so end of this month, 1st August, you should be able to go through.
Yeah, I'd
the
just like
request.
some time to
It's
think.
all online. I mean, it's all keyed in, so it's not like we're building anything other than, it's Christmas time now with all the requests, and then it gets pared back.
No, I understand. I just want to have time for some back and forth and we can make a good decision and not feel rushed.
Well, and with the change in the, our budget window, y'all know how big the pie is.
Yeah.
So it
And-
definitely simplifies things.
And then lastly, I was at the CID meeting today, and I actually got a talk to Austin about it. From Georgia DOT was there. Tim Matthews is our guy to talk to. Will you please go full force on him on the two express lane interchanges they're dumping on New Peachtree and on Flowers? That's the guy we need to speak to, and I mean us as council need to speak to him as well. But it's Tim Matthews. And Xavier, someone else was the other guy, but go with Tim Matthews. Because I saw their design. They have a third-party engineer that's designing it and just putting the interchanges where they think is right. And we need to get some input, and it doesn't sound like they're getting much input from city because it's a third party and not Georgia TOT and all that. So,
But that's what I've been saying. So
no, I know. I'm throwing the name out
you
there.
won't
We'll do it.
know until they bring it to you. So they're negotiating behind closed door with at least 3 multinational construction firms, and they will decide. They can add, take
a design
away,
build.
do whatever they want to. And it's all about making money. So it's all about how many cars they can get on those lanes.
So there was like one interchange at Perimeter Center, something skips everything, comes to Doraville and drops 2 right there, side by side on us. So
Welcome to GDOT.
yeah, we got to fight that one. Flowers can't. All right, that's all. Thanks, Mayor.
All right. Councilmember Henshaw.
Thanks. Yeah, I was ADA compliance on doors is not rocket science, but hey, sometimes you got to do it twice to get it right. Yeah, I just wanted to touch base on the trash. I actually looked at City of Atlanta's. They've raised their rates to over $430 a year for a residential.
It's like I just got the bill.
Yeah,
it's like 580
plus another 130 for recycling. And this is where my question comes in. They have a bulk pickup is included in their pricing, unless they allow 12 calls per year for a bulk pickup. After that, they charge $0.10 per call. We obviously don't have anything like that in place, but is it if we start to see people doing multiple bulk pickups at their property, if it's consistent, we might want to look at modifying our code to
and
compensate for that.
Like I said, I mean, we're going to have to adjust and change over time because we haven't been in the sanitation business. So we'll see what we see, evictions being one of them. But yeah, I mean, things are definitely going to come up.
I've been driving around during trash days now that they're separated out, and I've driven a bunch of neighborhoods and noticed that most of the cans are overflowing. And while people are complaining these are smaller, they're actually the same gallons. They're a little wider, they're a little shorter, but the fact that they're overflowing by not one bag, by 10 bags means that those recycle bins were just being used for trash. And so tough decision, but I think it was the right call ultimately. Although I personally still feel like everyone should be paying for recycling and you have to opt in, but I'll revisit that later.
It also kind of shows us where we've got houses that are probably boarding houses.
Yes. Yeah. Because if a 2-bedroom house is filling up a trash can to overflowing, there's other reasons behind. That's why I was asking about the bulk pickup and setting additional rates if people start abusing that. It's just worth looking at. So, and it just thanks to all the staff and everyone who helped with the move. That was a lot, I'm sure. And I know that there's still wrinkles to iron out, but you guys did a good job of getting into this space fairly quickly. So that's not easy.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Armistead.
Thank you. I had a couple of trash questions too. I wanted to ask you what did you say, 100 tons that we picked up?
Yeah.
Did we have any kind of estimate before we started on what we thought it was going to be?
We had no idea what we were going to get.
Okay.
Because, and that's part of it. And then I wouldn't even count till we go like 6 months and we see a trend. And then we got to look, we're paying tipping fees. So, I mean, we kind of went into this guesstimating because you got to pay for the tonnage and everything else too. So, yeah.
Okay. When Waste Pro doesn't pick up, I know they're not picking up trash that's outside of the cans. There's nobody to get out of the truck and leave any kind of note with the resident, right? To say, hey, this is.
I don't know. Chris isn't here. I know they have been doing some things like that and encouraging. I mean, they are spending some extra time up front now So they are, and even with the bulk items, because we're trying to push people to our website, we're picking them up, but then our staff are leaving a flyer, leaving something for the homeowner, say, hey, we got it, but please, use this. Because the whole idea, if you remember, we'd want to be able to schedule our routes, be more efficient, and not cruise the whole town hunting and pecking for items to pick up. Because there's plenty of things out there we can use GIS and actually schedule a route and probably get it done in a couple hours every day instead of hunting and pecking everywhere. So, it's just going to take time. But I mean, on the whole, for that, I think we're doing pretty good. At least I'm not hearing it on the bulk items and those things.
And Aspen Woods, you said you do think you can get a flyer on every door?
Yeah.
Okay,
Interns.
good. I love it. China's not here, right? Okay, I'll ask her separately. But thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Simmons had something else.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say I like Ring. By the way, I forgot to mention that for the. Yeah, I'm not for
Bring it
the
in, the ring.
the Players Place. Yeah, I like that.
No one objected, so
Yeah.
I was thinking staff would take that as it's okay. All right, great, thank you.
All right.
All right, new business. We've got Liz Humphreys.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lizzie, I think most of you know me. I will be giving the presentation on Motors Industrial Murals. You go to the next slide. So a little background on this. On June 19th, we selected 4 finalists based on an evaluation criteria, which I'll go over later on in the presentation. Reviewed by the Art Commission on June 26th. So there are 2 murals going on Motors Industrial. One is going to be at the corner of Beaufort Highway and Motors Industrial, and the other one is going to be under an overpass. And this was our advertisement. It says the City of Doraville is excited to announce 2 stunning murals celebrating our vibrant and diverse community. It'll soon be coming to the city. We invite talented muralists to explore the themes Welcome to Doraville, diversity, vitality, and community through dynamic large-scale art installations. These murals will serve as visual landmarks, showcasing Doraville's unique spirit and welcoming all who visit our city. So I just want to give a little bit of information of kind of our process. So we opened up the mural applications and we did receive 51 applications. And then on 4/15, we also held a stakeholder meeting with community members to get feedback of what elements they would like to see in each of the murals. And then using that feedback, we then did a public survey. So we could also hear from the public about what they would like to see. And then on 5/22, we evaluated those applications using the criteria I spoke about earlier. And then given that, these are the 4 artists that made the finalist list, and they are Dana Harrison. A little background about her. She's a professional muralist and designer. The Dear Alphabet Studio portfolio features clean, engaging murals that blend typography and natural elements. Number 2 is Elaine Stevenson. She's also an Atlanta-based muralist focused on bright, colorful community art. Past projects highlight cultural symbolism and community pride. Third artist was Sway Jones, founder of Sway Art LLC, also a professional muralist with community-focused mission, strong color and composition work. The portfolio included civic and private murals in Atlanta. And then the 4th artist was Teresa Aboud, 15 years experience with public and civic murals in Atlanta, Clarkston, Lawrenceville, also deep experience with community engagement. Go to the next slide. Okay, so these are the 2 locations. The top one's going to be at the corner of Beaufort Highway and Motors Industrial, and the other one is the overpass. Just wanted to show you guys each of the mural submissions. So this is going to be from Dana Harrison, and the artist summary you can find beneath. And so this is her summary of what she was trying to convey. And she designed these 2 mural pieces to reflect Doraville's strong sense of a community. The works share similar colors, shapes, and styles to create cohesion while maintaining visual interest. The design was influenced by the public survey that I spoke about, particularly the strong connection to the city's slogan. Natural elements such as the honeysuckle and English oak leaves reference our local parks. The interconnected lettering in the community mural represents unity, while the forward-leaning letter text suggests progress and growth. The artist also chose to include direct language in the design to create a welcoming, open, and sincere message that speaks clearly to all viewers. And just a note, she did apply for both projects. They did have the option to do one or both. So she's one of the ones that did a submission for both. This is her second submission for the underpass. And there's a little bit difference in her summary. The work shares similar colors, shapes, and styles to create cohesion while maintaining visual interest. She still highlighted Doraville line, and the lettering in this one, it represents community and unity and progress and growth. Okay, our second finalist was Elaine Stevenson. She just applied for the underpass. She created what she calls the fabric of Doraville, and that is to celebrate the city's diverse and connected community. The mural uses patterns inspired by traditional fabrics from Doraville's many cultures and features flowers native to Asian and Hispanic regions. Monarch butterflies represent migration and transformation, honoring the immigrant journeys that shape the city. Bright colors from traditional textiles create a festive atmosphere centered on the bold Doraville title, and her goal was to foster a sense of belonging and pride and reflect unity and diversity and honoring the people who make Doraville special. Okay, our third submission was by Sway Jones. They designed 2 mural pieces to reflect Doraville's strong sense of community. The design features a diverse group of faceless figures to create an inclusive anyone can see themselves represented. The bright, bold colors and graphic styles convey energy, unity, and pride. Welcoming text where community matters highlights Doraville's values and invites engagement. The artist's goal is to create an uplifting piece that visually communicates belonging and celebrates our identity. And then this is Teresa, and she did 2 submissions. So this is her first mural, and she wanted to reflect our diversity, vitality, and community spirit. It's inspired by our public survey. The concepts feature colorful natural elements and human figures to show harmony between people and nature. Diverse hands and faces represent the citizens' contributions to Doraville's growth. The designs emphasize positivity, inclusion, and belonging. She proposes a community painting day to involve residents directly, making the mural a shared experience, and her goal is to create an art that connects people, spreads joy, and celebrates Doraville as a welcoming, thriving community. Okay, and this is the same summary. Now, she did try to relate both murals, and I just want to also do a side note that community engagement is one of DOT's requirements for murals, so we will do some type of community engagement. And these are going to be the Art Commission evaluation scores. This was cumulative, so you can see how each of them scored. Teresa Aboud did get high scores, the highest scores for both of the murals. Okay. The themes within the murals is going to be multiculturalism and diversity, which represents Doraville's rich cultural identity, community and unity, emphasizing connection and shared pride, growth and progress, reflecting the city's evolving story, nature, celebrating Doraville's green spaces and natural beauty, and then joy, inspiration, and belonging, evoking positive emotions in a welcoming environment. These are all the themes that were received through the stakeholder meeting as well as the public art survey. Oops. You can go to the next one. Thanks. Yeah, my bad. Sorry. Is this the first presentation? Thank you. Justification. So this one was easy because it was appropriate. The locations are appropriate. We have to go through a GDOT application process, and we do have to have the designs prior to me submitting that application. So these murals reflect Doraville's vibrant diversity and serve as visual celebrations of the cultures, histories, and communities that shape the city. Their prominent placements offer a warm, inviting welcome to all who enter Doraville, reinforcing the city's identity as an inclusive and connected community. And we will be responsible for the maintenance of these sites, and that is included in the GDOT contractor application. Okay, and the Art Commission did recommend the approval of Doraville Dream, as well as the Welcome to Doraville, which are both of the names of the Teresa Abood designs. And then the council action needed is the approval of the attached resolution allowing the city to enter into an agreement of a substantially similar form.
Well, thank you. And I think all of the submissions were great, but I agree that the ones by Teresa Abood really do really are a step ahead.
Thank you.
And I'll say why Lizzie is doing this project is she's working on her MPA, life and code enforcement. So giving her opportunities to do projects and different things with the city. And this is the first one. And I chose one that was very much out of our comfort zone. And she's done a good, excellent job. So
Congratulations. Councilmember Evans, do you have any questions?
No questions. I like all four. I did like Teresa's as well. I thought Elaine Stevenson's was great too, but I'm glad to see that we're having some artwork right outside of one of the biggest projects in Doraville so far. So looks great.
Thank you. Councilmember Armistead.
Yeah, I like it. Can we do t-shirts like they did for the Buford Highway mural at Pine Tree Plaza?
I'm sure we could do t-shirts.
That would be very cool because I thought
good
those were
about that.
great. But thank you. This was great. I can't wait to see them.
Great.
Thank you. Councilmember Henshaw.
Yeah, my only question would be, is there any conflict of interest isn't the right word, but having one artist do both, or is it actually better to have one artist do both?
We just used that evaluation criteria, and we were open to either. So I don't know. Yeah, if that answers it, but I don't think so.
Good enough answer. I wanted to make sure because I did like a number of them.
Yes.
And I'm glad that that we're not being asked to choose. It's nice.
Yeah, we had great submissions.
Yeah. And I actually want to say whoever put the performer together to get 51 submissions for murals from gangs is very, very nice. It's nice to see all the gangs interested in Doraville.
I'll give a shout out to Majira and Emily for that, probably.
Thanks for putting that together. It's good to get that kind of level of response. I was sarcasm, by the way, in case it doesn't get picked up on the microphone or the eye rolls on camera.
All right. And we'll go to Councilmember Kuntz next. And I'll just say that, this process really owes a lot to her and her kind of advocacy for us to have a process. And I think the reason that we're just deciding to approve what the Art Commission did rather than getting into the nitty gritty of which piece we like the best, I am thankful to her for. So, anyway, Councilmember, your comments.
No, I appreciate it. And can you show us again the ones that were that's going to be the finalists?
Sure.
Just so the community can kind of see.
Yes.
Here are the two that we like.
Do you want to see all of the final
no,
four,
no,
or just
just
the two we're doing?
The two were
selected.
It's going to be Teresa at the end. So right there.
two.
So this will be number one.
Yes.
And there were some questions about the dimensions. I do want to mention that because it's important. I think that it will be close to this, but it may just be a little. She submitted the mock-up, so we're going to work with her and try to get it as close as we can with the budget.
Okay. No, I like that it's a longer thing
Yes,
too.
and it's a shorter wall, so I think the square footage evens out.
Right. No, they look fantastic, and it really has got colorful. Makes the city look welcoming.
Yes, and this is the second one. Very similar styles, which is cool. And that one's under the overpass.
Yeah, and they share a theme, but they're different too at the same time. And I want to thank the folks on the Art Commission because they're doing all this work as volunteers, and they're doing the heavy lifting of evaluating this stuff so that us non-artists up here don't have to make a decision, that people that actually are artists are looking at this stuff and evaluating it, because I don't want to be doing that.
Yes.
So I appreciate them very much for their volunteer time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ray.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just say thanks to everyone involved in this. And I'm glad we do have people more qualified than me to evaluate art. I think art is why when you drive by, and I hope, I reminds everyone, the values we do stand for, and hopefully just gives us a little bit of a nudge to continue to live that out in Doraville. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. Definitely kudos to the Art Commission. Like, what a tough job to pick these. Like, they're all awesome. So thank you to Dana, Elaine, Sway, and Teresa. They're all great murals, and that is super tough to choose from. I really like the two they did choose. I think the score definitely speaks for itself on which ones they chose, and I like them. And just about the art, it just makes our city, as everyone said, look so vibrant, not run down. So it really helps brighten our city, which I love. And I am terrible at art, but I have an eye for something that's good. That looks good. Me drawing it, not even close. But I love it, and thank you for doing this. And thank you again to the mural creations done by the artists. They all look beautiful. Thank you.
All right. I think that was everybody. So, but I would like to make a motion. Go ahead.
I have one more comment too that, and I have talked with the folks over at the movie studio, and they were very excited about these murals. And if you haven't been over there, they painted a beautiful mural over the front of their entrance that kind of ties together, Atlanta and Doraville's history and stuff like that. So I know they were very excited about getting more public art as part of the whole area around their studio. And I'll be the one happy to make the motion to approve the request for the Motors Industrial murals.
I second that.
All right. We have motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Unanimously passes.
Thank you, Lizzie. You did awesome.
You throw that remote back on the ground now.
Sorry about
All right. Now we have the item that Councilmember Evans pulled off the consent agenda. And Councilmember, I'm going to turn it over to you to ask whatever questions you had, and then we can have a discussion.
Sure, it's actually ties in seamlessly. Thank you, Mayor. It's regarding the new apartments Camino with the mural on there, which is a beautiful piece of art. My only concern and thought was, and I asked Chris Eldridge a little bit early today, is could staff communicate to the owner, is there a way to have it illuminated at night? It's a beautiful piece, and as you come down Buford Highway and with the new downtown city center, it would be nice to see it all times of the day and night. And I know there's apartments adjacent to it, but they can definitely potentially do spotlighting. There's also UV reactive paint that could be illuminated by black lights or even a glow in the dark paint. So if there was something they could consider, and maybe this could come back next week with an answer.
Chris Eldridge, do you have any comment on that? I think that there was a little bit of conversation about this before, and I know that council had already negotiated with them on the mural itself. So we're kind of going back after the fact. And
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of expense we're asking them to bear. If you remember, they got no incentives. And then talking with Isabel, she said that the only way it can be, it has to be top lit or something that's already in our ordinance, so that downlit, so it even kind of further hampers what they could do. I mean, it's a pretty big ask. If council wants me to, I will, but.
There probably needs to be a discussion before we decide to do that. So Councilmember Kuntz.
No, I know one of the concerns we've had about just like billboards and digital signage and all that stuff has been light pollution. And that would be my concern about, while it, from a distance, I agree it could be attractive, but then you got to think about, is it shining in the windows or is there light leaking into residents' windows at night? And I know when they first put the street light out in front of my house, it was like the front yard was lit up like the surface of the sun. I mean, there was no night at my house. And they came out with these new LED lights that are directional, and it's better, but I personally would be just fine with no light out there.
Yeah, there's a good Seinfeld episode.
Yes. Yes, there is.
Chicken?
Yep.
Yeah, the chicken. Yeah, there is a good. So And like you said, they didn't ask for any tax incentives. They didn't come to our DDA. They didn't ask for abatements or anything. They just came in and built to spec some nice housing. It is really nice. And I would defer kind of to them about what they want for their residents, is my opinion.
Okay. Councilmember Henshaw?
I want to just be even-handed. We haven't required any of the other billboards to have lighting, and I believe our code doesn't allow for uplighting. So we'd have to ask them to downlight their building with new wiring and a bunch of other things. So, I mean, if it's something that we want to consider moving forward in future projects, we can look at, applying it to our code, but I want to be very even-handed with this. So.
And even the one you mentioned at Pine Tree Plaza, I mean, that would be one that would make sense to light. I mean, it'd be fine. You're not bothering anybody. It's just location. Yeah.
Yeah. And I need one of those new LED lights at my house because the light across the street from my house makes my front lawn glow as well. So maybe I can get on Georgia Power to come out and fix that. So.
Thanks, Councilmember Armstead.
I agree. I think I understand what Councilmember Evans is saying, that it's beautiful and it would be nice to be able to see it at night, but I just think this is an ask we should have made prior to this point. And I don't think it's fair to the developer to ask for it now.
Councilmember Simmons.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I don't think it's fair to ask now. I really don't have any interest in asking them. I think if they want to do it because it's going to make their mural look great, then they should do it. But requiring them to do it, I'm not on board with that. And I mean, if we do light it up and they don't upkeep it, we're shining something that doesn't look good. There's another side to it as well. So like, careful what you ask for. But as Councilmember Henshaw said, if this is something we want to do in the future, I'll discuss it and look into it. But asking them now after the fact, I'm not on board with that. But thanks for bringing this up, Councilmember Evans.
Councilmember Ray.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you to Councilmember Evans. I think something that's worth discussing, the idea of making sure our public art is lit up, but I'm going to just echo what everyone else said. I don't think coming back after the fact and before we've really thought through everything makes sense. So I'm okay moving forward without that requirement.
Councilmember Evans, was there anything else that you had on this?
No, that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you everyone for weighing in.
All right. Well, would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to, deny what would the proper motion be?
I think
There's
a
a
motion to
request
approve
to
consent.
approve the public art.
Oh, okay. Then I'll make a motion to approve the public art.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'll call the roll. Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Kuntz,
Yes.
Councilmember Henshaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Armistead,
Yes.
Councilmember Ray,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
And did we ever approve the rest of the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Yes. That was approved at the time.
Okay. I wasn't sure we went through that.
I believe we did.
Yeah. No, we approved it.
Okay.
I think.
I
The
think you
clerk,
just
the
pulled it-
clerk will tell us if we did pass it.
Okay, I thought we just pulled that item off and moved.
I think you made a motion to approve it with the item. moved.
Okay,
All right.
I'm just making sure we don't get out of here and go, oh, we never approved the consent agenda.
They've
He's the
gotten
boss.
on track.
I trust him.
All right. So Councilmember Simmons, you've got a couple of policy discussions you want to bring up?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So I have two discussion items, the adoption of the transient sale ordinance and the adoption of litter registry ordinance, both adopted by DeKalb, Brookhaven, Johns Creek, Roswell. A lot of cities around have adopted it, and we just want to get in line with the county. And I have some great speakers here with a great presentation up there to go over this with you guys, and sort of just want to put it out there, discuss it, and see if it's something that we'd like to adopt and get in line with DeKalb County behind. And then, of course, after that, it'd have to go to Cecil to make sure it's all good, right, Cecil? Before anything is brought back to give a first read and all, correct? Right. So sadly, we can't.
I guess like,
waive it for-
basically, if council says yes, move forward,
can-
then Cecil will draft something and bring it back to us.
Correct, but we're just here to give you a great presentation and be on the side of the animals over here because they can't speak in this hot weather right now. So Peggy, come on up. And this is Peggy, and then we have Shelley, right? Sorry, Sherry Hines. I wrote it down. And Deb, that's it. So thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Geierman and council members. My name is Peggy McCarthy, and I'm a volunteer board member for the Georgia Pet Coalition, which is it's a statewide organization which advocates for state and local laws for companion animal protection. My purpose for being here today is twofold. First is to provide the Doraville City Council with an update on the new state law which prohibits the transient sales of pets in outdoor locations, and the local ordinance prohibiting the same illegal conduct as the new law for the purpose of expanding enforcement options in Doraville, and to add a restriction on pet sales at year-round flea markets, which is what DeKalb has. Problematic breeding in Georgia comes from two primary sources. The first is inadvertent litters. The solutions here include pet owner education and access to low-cost spay-neuter services. The second sort is intentional reckless breeding for profit, which includes backyard breeding and high-volume breeding known as mills. Both require the enactment of laws and deterrents such as heavy fines. The new state law targets this source, not the first one. The next few slides provide typical examples of transient pet sellers that have been reported by advocates. In this photo from Cobb County, multiple litters of puppies were being offered for sale out of the back of a car in a parking lot. Selling more than 1 litter per year without a Georgia Department of Ag pet dealer's license is a misdemeanor in Georgia. Unregulated outdoor locations like this allow breeders to evade business and licensing laws, even when selling animals for hundreds or thousands of dollars. I recently encountered a woman selling French bulldog puppies in Chastain Park for $3,500 a piece without any paperwork or vet documentation. And she claimed this was an accidental litter. These two puppies were being advertised for sale in front of a Best Buy in Decatur. The puppies had been in a Tupperware without water on a hot summer day, and you can see the feces in there. There was bloody diarrhea on the sidewalk. The seller refused to surrender these puppies to an advocate, so she paid him $200 because the puppies were obviously sick and she was worried for their safety. The advocate took the puppies straight to the emergency vet, which personally cost her $3,000 for 5 days of treatment of coccidia, dehydration, bloody diarrhea, and worms. Flea markets are a favored location for selling puppies, kittens, and bunnies. Diseases are common at these venues because of the close confinement of animals. The Georgia House Rabbit Society reports that about 20 to 30% of their shelter intake comes from the Pendergrass flea market alone, and most of these bunnies are sick. It should be noted that rabbits are the third most euthanized animals behind dogs and cats. Because the examples here that I've provided here are found statewide, I hear about them all the time, the Georgia Pet Coalition successfully spearheaded the passage of a uniform statewide law, HB 331, which became effective July 1st as OCGA 4-11-10.1. The law states that it shall be unlawful for any person to engage in a transfer for consideration, which refers to the sale or barter of any dog, cat, or domestic rabbit at the various outdoor locations that are listed here in the slide, including transient or seasonal flea markets, regardless of whether such activity is otherwise authorized or by any person or entity. Note that this state law does not ban pet sales at year-round flea markets. This was a compromise that was reached with the Georgia Department of Ag. However, local governments are not preempted from passing an ordinance banning pet sales at all flea markets, such as DeKalb has done. Exemptions under the new law include animal shelters and rescues that possess a valid state-issued license, any transaction that takes place at a breeder's residence or business property or inside a veterinary's office. So breeders can still sell animals in these locations. Also included in the exemptions are transactions that are part of an event or show sanctioned by a national breed club, 4-H program, or similar agricultural exhibition. The AKC endorsed the state bill. Also exempted is a prearranged sale between a seller and a buyer that take place at a sheriff or police station parking lot. Many of these lots are designated as safe trading zones. I don't know if Doraville has that, but there's plenty around. The new law does not apply to persons giving away a litter in an outdoor location. The intent of this state law is to target intentional breeding and illicit pet sales and is not meant to be punitive towards impoverished people who lack resources such as access to low-cost spay-neuter. Surrendering the litter to a shelter is preferable to a giveaway because the animals would get vaccinated and altered. But if people aren't allowed to surrender animals the same day or even in the same week or have transportation issues getting to the shelter, a giveaway is the next best option. We do not want people abandoning litters, which is also illegal, is an illegal state law. Thank you for allowing my comments and considering the adoption of this ordinance. Deb Bursa will next speak about enforcement.
So as Peggy said, talk about enforcement of the new state law. As a state law, only post-certified law enforcement officers are authorized to enforce violations. And that enforcement can take the form of a warning or an arrest warrant. So as noted here, POST stands for Peace Officer Standards and Training, which is a curriculum administered by the Georgia Post Council. Typical examples of post-certified officers are police, sheriffs, and marshals. Note that some animal control and code enforcement offices employ post-certified officers, or these officers are housed within police departments or sheriff's offices. That is the case, then these officers are authorized to enforce the new state law. If, however, local animal control and or code enforcement officers are not post-certified, then they're not authorized to enforce the state law. It's both advantageous and permissible for local governments to adopt an ordinance with similar language as the state law to allow for the option of issuing a citation. In addition, under local code, both post-certified law enforcement officers and non-post-certified animal control and code enforcement officers are authorized to cite violations, which I'll address in a few slides. So what are the penalties for violating the state law banning the transient sale of pets? If multiple animals are involved, each animal is considered a separate violation and each animal is treated as a separate misdemeanor offense. The fines are escalating and shown here. $100 for the first offense or animal, $250 for the second offense or animal, and $500 for the third or subsequent offenses. So if someone is selling 4 puppies from the back of a car in a local parking lot, then the maximum possible fine would be $1,350. So why was this new state law needed? Well, the new law protects consumers from buying sick, genetically defective, or misrepresented animals. Unsuspecting consumers see these cute puppies and they often buy on impulse and later have no recourse against a seller that they cannot locate. The new law protects animals by increasing deterrence for illicit breeders who raise animals in neglectful environments. And Peggy provided a real-life example of this situation when she mentioned that sick puppy that had the $3,000 vet bill. The new law protects legal breeders who follow responsible practices. The new law helps to limit competition with unregulated and irresponsible backyard breeders who often cut costs by limiting vet care, grooming, and other costly aspects of raising companion animals. And the new law reduces the economic burden on taxpayers and nonprofits for animal control services in overcrowded shelters. The cost for public and private shelters for the management of unwanted animals exceeds $100 million annually in Georgia. More on why it's needed. The new law prevents illicit pet sellers from simply crossing jurisdictional lines to evade local laws. So the statewide law eliminates the whack-a-mole process of trying to stop transient sellers who move from place to place, because all unauthorized locations statewide are now illegal. The new law alleviates the need to determine violations of business and breeder licensing laws in the field. Basically, if you're selling pets in one of the unauthorized locations, you're violating the law, period. There's no need for officers to check for business or breeder licenses in the field. And the new law reduces opportunities for breeders who cater to gang members by anonymously supplying dogs for criminal activities such as dog fighting and illegal drug trafficking, meaning the occurrence of transient sales can sometimes be just the tip of the iceberg for other illegal activities. So why adopt this local ordinance that prohibits the same illegal conduct? Well, the main benefit is that it expands the enforcement options for the city. Law enforcement will have the discretion to either warn, cite under local code, or arrest under state level charges. And non-post certified government employees such as animal control and code enforcement officers will be authorized to warn or cite under the local code. Citations for violations of a city ordinance would be heard in municipal court versus state court, and citation is the preferred deterrent except for egregious cases that warrant arrest and impoundment of animals. The language that we're recommending for Doraville is basically the same as what's in the state law, except the phrase transient or seasonal flea market has been changed to be the more universal flea market. So year-round flea markets can be included in enforcement. And then if needed, there's some additional language that pertain to enforcement. An animal control officer who's an employee of state or local government or sheriff, deputy sheriff, or other peace officer is authorized to enforce. So that was kind of the highlight of that one, if needed. And as mentioned earlier, this has been passed by other local governments. The following two slides are the counties and the cities as of June 2025 that have adopted a local ordinance that prohibits the transit sale of dogs, cats, and domestic rabbits. Therefore, their animal control, code enforcement, and law enforcement officers are all authorized to cite violations under this local code. In other words, the city of Doraville would be following in the footsteps of several other local governments that have adopted this local ordinance. So you can see here it's DeKalb County, Fulton County, Hall, Forsyth, and Athens-Clarke County. And then the cities are Brookhaven, Dunwoody, Gainesville, Johns Creek, Roswell, and Royston. And that's our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any question that you have.
All right, thank you. Councilmember, anything to follow up with that?
Yeah, just to follow up and thank you so much for the presentation. It was great. I also just wanted to mention that, you know, as you saw the exclusion list, like we're not targeting pet stores, we're not targeting legal breeders. We're trying to make it so when these transient sales, when you go and buy an animal there, you don't know what you're getting. They can sell you some kind, like a French bulldog or a pit bull, charge $2,000-$3,000. You do a wisdom panel test where you can find out the breed, and it's like you got a Chihuahua and Lab or something, you know, so you just pay for that. So it like protects the consumer on the customer base. I think that's great. And then also, I think another thing that'd be great to add to this when we have further discussion is marking this on GIS so you can see where to educate. You know, it will help out with a lot of education. If you mark where you're writing citations or you give warnings or whatever, it will help show you pockets that you can go and educate better and bring out flyers, because a lot of it's education based, you know. So those were just my few little extra points. And then can you go back? It's about like 5 slides, I think it is. Keep going. Keep going. Maybe one more. One more. Hang on, keep, I don't know, that one. Like if that slide doesn't say to pass this ordinance and adopt it, I don't know what does, you know. Look at that cute. This
You're just
cute.
gonna leave that one up.
Yeah, just leave that one up for the rest. Look, they're so cute.
And
I-
go ahead.
I wanted to say, we have a one-page flyer for the public, businesses and breeders that we can make available to you.
So thank you.
I think what I got from the presentation, the reason for Doraville to pass this ordinance is really to give it more flexibility in the enforcement, because even though this is a Georgia law, and I don't know that our code enforcement officers would necessarily be out enforcing it, but it just gives a little bit more flexibility to the police in
Animal control.
kind of handling this in animal control. And I guess I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with adding flea markets. I know they're not currently allowed in Doraville anyway, but I'll leave that to Cecil to figure out what makes sense for our ordinance. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather be protected.
Okay. Any comments, Councilmember Evans?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just need clarity. There was one slide in the second session about where you could meet to exchange or pay for a dog. It looked like you couldn't meet in a parking lot. I just want to know if there were recommendations on how that's set up. If you're a private seller meeting someone, from Facebook Marketplace, where do you meet them?
And Isabel, there's a slide that tells you where you can meet in the legal places.
I thought it said for if there's a
It's right there. That's it.
prearranged sales, they could go to
The
a safe breeding
exemptions.
zone.
The slide before the cute puppies.
Okay.
Yeah. Peggy, you're at Deb Merson.
This actually was a request from the AKC because not everyone is comfortable with someone coming to their home for
Right.
prearranged sale at a sheriff or police station, which typically have cameras. And again, there are some that are designated safe trading zones. They can make that transfer there, or they can inside a veterinarian's office. But in general, you want to see how the puppies are raised. And so it's preferable to meet the breeding mother, the puppy's parents, or the mother at least, but.
Yeah. So in short, yeah. So pretty much in short, Gerald, the way I see it is you can go to a safe prearranged sale place for a seller and buyer for your question.
Okay.
The way
And then another question is the word breeder. What is there a classification for that definition? I mean, if you have two dogs, they have a litter, are you considered a breeder, or it's just a litter from your puppies, from your dogs?
So, and Peggy Demer, so you guys can stay up here and answer. You can stay at the podium, all you guys, if you want.
I'm sure. So I can speak to that question, I think. So what we're really looking at in Georgia is there's something called a pet dealer license. And so that is probably what most people would think of as a breeder, someone who's a licensed pet dealer. The problem, as I'm going to get to in a minute, is that the pet dealer license is required if you have more than one litter. The question is who is having more than one litter and how do you prove it? So I will get to that in just a moment, but I hope that answers your questions for now.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Henshaw.
I had a question, and Cecil, this may be for you, but if I'm selling $3,500 or $3,000, $4,000 puppies, and I've got four of them, a $1,200 or $1,300 fine, is it going to make me necessarily deter me? So we have a cap of $1,000 fine per incident in our ordinance. We set our higher, so each infraction is met at that $1,000 or up to $1,000 per?
Typically you would look at the state law as a floor in it. If it specifically says you can adopt local regulations, you may be able to do that. That's something I can look at on it. The one way we do that, and we've adopted a lot of ordinances as a local ordinance, so we could bring it into municipal court. And one way is to just say, it's subject to, the standard fine, which means it's subject to the $1,000 or the time in jail, and then it goes into the solicitor's discretion. But if on some things like the state has done here, they'll put in the schedule, probably because they're trying to recognize, from what I'm hearing, is there a lot of good breeders, and you're separating the good breeders from the bad, so they sort of held it in a box here. I'd need to look at it. Generally, we can go up the state as a floor, we can go over it, but that would be the kind of thing I'd look at and bringing it.
I think our tree ordinance is, whatever it is per tree. So you cut down 5 trees, you get charged per tree. You sell 5 puppies, you get charged per puppy.
And the solicitor has that discretion to charge for each animal. And
From the presentation, it's already counted that way.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't know if our ordinance could be written that way or what, or if our charter prohibits something like that.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I looked at it and structurally, this is all fine, and mapping state law is something we've done a bunch of times. So I didn't, until we talked about it and approved it, I didn't put all the time in, but we can come back and discuss all that. We're going to be able to follow state law and adopt this into our codes, and it's something you do. So we can bring it into municipal court, and that's going to give us a lot more control as it applies to this issue, a lot swifter resolution on this issue.
There's 2 people I trust with animal stuff. It's Bob Barker and you. So Bob's long gone. So, but yeah, I'm perfectly happy with all of this. I just want to make sure that the fines actually deter somebody from doing it. Because again, if you're going to make, 3 or 4 puppies at $4,000 a pop, I'd risk $1,300 for a $12,000 payday. It just doesn't make any sense to not penalize. So I would write it where, if I could write it, I would say a minimum of $100 per offense or whatever it is, up to the charge that you're charging for each puppy. So whatever you've charged for the dog is the fine you're going to get. But I don't know that we can really write our code that way.
That we can do a lot with that. Let me look at that specific issue when I bring it back.
So if I could actually speak to that, the question of preemption is a little bit complicated in this because although it does give you the authority to create your own ordinance, it does say it cannot be in conflict with state law. So I think a question is your attorney's comfort with whether how much that's in conflict. But I will say, to answer your point, one concern is that persons who violate this in state law will be arrested if their prosecution moves forward. In other words, right now, there's no way to just issue a citation unless you adopt an ordinance. And even if you do, police can arrest someone. So that hopefully would be a deterrent as well. They also can face jail time. Nothing in the statute says anything about a limit on jail time. Absolutely. I mean, their animals can be impounded, so they could lose those $3,500 value puppies. Now, a question of how they reclaim them is another thing we could discuss, but I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm fine with this moving forward through legal and coming back to it.
All right, Councilmember Armistead.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get a lot of argument from a council that I think all of us have rescue dogs. So yeah, I'm fine with moving forward. I'm fine with making the penalty as high as we can. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Kuntz.
Hey, can I cast the picture of my dog on the screen? Anyway, no, and I was gonna say the same thing as Mr. Henshaw, but when you brought up the point of it can't be in conflict with the state law. So I'm not sure that we can say that, because it says shall not exceed that I mean, maybe we can.
Hold us in. If the state law calls that out as the maximum fines.
But but couldn't we make our minimum their maximum and not be in conflict with the state law?
Let me look at it. I'll bring it back with that issue. But if the state is specifically calling out a maximum, that may be, we will be.
But you know what I'm saying? If we make our minimum, or just say it is, instead of saying a max of, just say the fine shall be $100 and whatever.
I think Cecil is going to be hearing that we want to be the maximum.
I'm going to bring that back. I'm going to be ready.
Whatever.
And
on that.
And I really like this is protecting consumers. This was probably 30 years ago. A friend of mine bought what they thought was a miniature potbelly pig. And 2 years later, they've got this 100-pound pig or 150-pound pig out in their backyard, and there's, without, and I'm sure they bought it at a flea market or something. And there's, you can't see the mom and these cute little piglets. And they're like, oh yeah, they're only going to get about 5 pounds bigger. And then, so yeah, I like the idea that we're protecting consumers from fraud.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Ray.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. This is great. Nothing really to add. Send it through. Maximum fine. Let's go.
All right. So you'll just work with Cecil on bring that to council to vote on?
Yes. Yes, Mayor, I will. Do we need to add chickens to that?
I'll leave that to you and Councilmember Armistead. All right, you've got the next item.
So yeah, all right, so let me get to, I actually wrote something down. So the next one is the adoption of the litter registry, and this is what DeKalb County just passed at their last commission meeting, roughly about a month ago. I went and did a presentation on it or spoke on it. And so the litter registry is, well, of course, we'll speak on that. This ordinance will fall in line with DeKalb County's ordinance and will create an animal litter registry to address DeKalb County's overpopulations of cats, dogs, and domestic rabbits. And so individuals who own a female cat, dog, or domestic rabbit may not produce more than 1 litter in any 12-month period unless they have a licensed pet dealer or animal shelter. That's a quick synopsis of this, but I will let you go ahead and give your presentation.
Great. Thank you all so much for having me this evening. My name is Sherry Hines, and I'd like to introduce myself very briefly. Up until just recently, up until this April, I was a deputy chief attorney for the Unified Government of Athens-Hart County, where I, among many other things that I did, I wrote animal control ordinances and prosecuted all of our animal services violations. So I'm very familiar with these types of ordinances. I now am a professor at the UGA School of Law, hopefully going to be teaching animal law next semester. So I'm not here on behalf of UGA, and I'm certainly not here on behalf of Athens-Hart County. I also am heavily involved in animal rescue. I serve on the board of the Madison Oglethorpe Animal Shelter. So I'm very personally interested in this work. But I do want to point out that this is actually not my work. I think it's only fair to say that Professor Lisa Milet, who's the person I came to replace at UGA, is the one who worked closely with Peggy and others to draft this ordinance and actually prepared this presentation. So I've got big shoes to fill, and I've certainly reviewed it and feel very comfortable with this, but I want to give credit where credit is due, that this is not work that I created. So on that note, there we go. So the reason we're here is to talk about how to address pet overpopulation in Doraville as other communities are trying to wrestle with that problem. And as we sort of already highlighted, there's just a fundamental issue in how the GDA licensed breeders and how local governments are able to enforce, or rather not enforce, against those sorts of persons who are breeding either accidentally or illicitly for profit without really taking care of those animals or thinking about the consumers. The goal of this presentation and this ordinance is to focus on the low volume commercial and inadvertent breeding of dogs, cats, and rabbits that you've already heard us talk about with Deb and Peggy's excellent presentation earlier. When Lisa first prepared this, she estimated that overpopulation of these types of animals is costing DeKalb County taxpayers more than $11 million. Now, I don't have a number specifically for Doraville, but I think we all recognize the extreme expense this puts on governments across the state of Georgia, because people are constantly producing these animals that have no place to go or that have significant illnesses or genetic problems that are much harder to treat than they are to prevent. The core issue is that we are simply producing more animals than we are capable or are able to find happy homes for, that can care for them throughout their lifespan, as opposed to adopting them as a cute puppy, kitten, little bunny, and dumping it back at the shelter within a year. And this, of course, then leads to overwhelming costs on our taxpayers that are increasing with inflation every year. Unfortunately, there is no one size fits all solution. And we know that this is a very complex problem, and that there are multiple different facets to try to attack this problem. But hopefully this one will give us one way to really begin to close the loop. So this is the Georgia state law, and this is in the rules and regulations for the GDA. But what it says is that any person who sells at least 1 litter per year, or offers a pet for adoption, may only do so for only do that with 1 litter per 12-month period, excuse me. That's an important regulation that the Georgia Department of Agriculture has the ability to enforce. It is a misdemeanor, as Peggy had said. The problem is that there's no way to know if I am producing my first litter in a year, or my second, or my fifth, except arguably when someone has a sign that advertises 5 different breeds. Presumably that is in fact 5 different litters, or again, it's just misinformation. If someone is producing more than one litter of what dogs, cats, rabbits in a year, they are supposed to be registered as a pet dealer with the Georgia Department of Agriculture. But I can say from my 7.5 years of experience prosecuting these types of cases, people are not registering as pet dealers. I've never seen someone come in and say, oh yeah, I'm a pet dealer, here's my license. I imagine that Doraville would experience something fairly similar. Because there's no mechanism for tracking that first litter, what it essentially means is that anytime you ask somebody, oh, is this your first litter? They say, yes, it is. And some of those people are telling the truth, but there are a large number of people we have to assume from the information that is available to us that they're not telling the truth. And there is no way for us to distinguish between good actors and bad actors so that we can try to make a difference. Lisa came up with a brilliant analogy to hunting. So we recognize that both breeding and hunting, that there's some level of activity that can cause a great deal of harm to the public good, right? You can overhunt a species, you can overproduce animals that have to be disposed at great cost to the public, or managed at great cost, I should say. So in hunting, the way we deal with this is by requiring licensed hunters to tag. So yes, they've got a license, but then anytime they kill a deer, they have to tag the deer. And I will say I'm not a hunter, so I apologize if I'm overstating or oversimplifying any of that. But essentially, unless that killed deer is tagged, then that deer has been killed illegally, right? That is the fundamental rule. And so what we want to do is try to apply the same thing to animals. Unless you have a license, or not a license, excuse me, a registry for the litter you have, then you are by default in violation of the law, because that is what we're missing. When someone sees a litter, when animal control goes out to a residence, or when we see a litter being sold on the side of the road, there's no way to know, is that a first litter or not? So this litter registry that you're considering before you is the intent to provide that notice so that it would be easy for people to enforce this moving forward. Under this ordinance, people who are not licensed as pet dealers, so I want to be really clear, this is not going to apply to your valid pet dealers, your animal shelters. They must just only provide a free, easy, and immediate, and immediate is within 21 days or 10 days, depending. But this quick notice that they have produced their exempt litter, or that they have gotten a litter in some way and brought it into Doraville. In order for an ordinance like this legal breeding visible and starting to curtail it, it needs several qualities. It must be easy to enforce. It needs to have general compliance, and there needs to be a way to prevent offenders from repeating the offense. So in hunting, the tagger notification is combined with heavy enforcement, lots of game wardens, and that is not what we are suggesting here. We don't want to propose that you spend more money on animal control, although, that may be a separate question. Instead, this ordinance is designed to be easily and cheaply enforced. After it becomes effective, every litter of puppies, kittens, and kits in the county will either be owned by a licensed pet dealer and therefore exempt, listed in the litter registry, or illegal. Those are your only three options. This means all an animal control officer needs to do if they see a litter is to check whether the address is for a licensed pet dealer or listed as having a registered litter. If so, it's legal. If not, it's not. And then the officer has a number of options. They can discuss the pet litter registry. They can get someone to sign up immediately. They can choose to issue a citation or a warning, but it's a way to have that conversation and enforce some teeth in it, and also ensure that that litter is now registered, so that if they have a second litter, that's something that the GDA and others can enforce because they're in violation. So for inadvertent breeders, the emphasis is on education and compliance with resources being behavior in the future. That's always what we want at the end of the day in the shelter world. Is we don't want more unwanted litters being born, because that means more burden on the taxpayers, more burden on the shelters. Now, for illegal commercial breeding, the emphasis is on getting them properly registered as a pet dealer, because that's what they're required to do if they're actually pet dealers, which also means all required business licenses, tax filings, things that they should be doing if they are in fact running a business here in Doraville, or if they are hopefully not going to be breeding anymore, having their animals altered so that they can no longer be bred in the future. In addition, for best effectiveness, registration incentives should be offered. So what we're talking about there is examples like in the city of Toronto, where they offered first vaccines free, which I think was, I haven't looked at that, but I believe it means first vaccines for the litter. So your parvo, your distemper, your I can't think of it at the moment. But anyways, all those initial vaccines for puppies and kittens. Manufacturer discounts that they may have been able to arrange, allocation of spaces at future spay-a-thons to help those people get those animals altered so they're not breeding anymore. Those are all optional, of course, but the more that you can use incentives to use the carrot, not the stick, I realize I've gotten ahead of myself, the better off that you'll be and the more uptake you're likely to have with your program. Like in the world of hunting, we all know that there are still going to be people who are going to breed illegally, just like people poach illegally. However, having an incentive-based approach makes it more likely that people will adopt this ordinance wholeheartedly and begin to comply. But secondly, it ensures that when you do have people who are intentionally illegally breeding, or just doing so out of inertia, neglect, unwillingness to comply, that you have the ability to hold them accountable so that you can make change for yourselves, your citizens, and your animals. And it also protects responsible breeders because they're not having to compete with these irresponsible breeders who are introducing litters, unfairly and citizens. Now, this is more of a presentation about why this ordinance was created. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm also happy to answer any questions the logistics of the ordinance. But thank you so much for your time. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And Councilmember Fiocchi, I'll go ahead with ask what questions council has. Councilmember Evans, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you for the presentation. My only question is, this is great, but is there a way that this can address, or does it address, like feral cats or even like wild dogs as well, since there's no one necessarily overseeing them, but they're still coming back with breeding issues and health concerns with rabies, and they're going in and out of some people's homes that may have the garage open to feed them, etc. Does this ordinance address that as well, or can it?
Yeah. So you blurred out for a second, but I think I got the gist of your question. What I would say is I haven't looked very carefully at your entire code, but most of the animal service ordinances that I'm familiar with, and I suspect yours too, have a very broad definition of the word of owner. So even though you might say, I'm the owner of X dog because I adopted it, I bought it, in our codes, what we actually mean is whoever is in control of the animal at a given time is typically an owner. So when you mentioned the people who are just kind of feeding stray animals, those are usually owners of an animal within the code of a local government, even though they don't think of themselves as owners, right? And so I would say that yes, this ordinance would apply to those. So as an example, imagine that I begin feeding a feral cat and it comes to my house every night and I'm putting out food and water for it. I'm caring for it in some way. I would say at that point, once, a reasonable period of time has passed, and by that I mean a few days, I don't mean hours or months, I'm probably considered an owner of that animal. If that cat then has a litter, this applies to me. If that cat shows up with a litter in tow and I begin feeding all of them, that I believe also applies to me. Because if you look through the ordinance, it has sort of 3 different designations. If I produce the litter, in other words, say that feral cat produces a litter on my property, even if I didn't intend that, I have to provide notice within 21 days. If I bring a mom or a litter into Doraville, or they arrive and I become an owner of it after the birth, I have to provide notice within 10 days. But it's designed to encompass all of that. And I do apologize. I realize I left off 2 slides. If I can switch. Sorry. So this one is just some resources that we encourage you to look at. The Beyond Sheltering videos, we're still finishing them, but there will be more later this year. And then those are 2 of my rescues. I have 1 more who's not pictured, but that is my information. If anyone needs to reach out to me, I'm happy to be a resource for any animal related issues.
Councilmember Evans, any other questions?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ray?
No questions from me. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Councilmember Kuntz?
My question is involving the enforcement of this. I understand the intent of this, but I'm also very hesitant to put into law something that we don't have the resources and we're not going to be like following up on and be able to like, have staff to be able to track this registry. And, we've talked about, it was the same reason we recently approved the backyard hens. And I understood, Warren's wanting to have a registry for them, but the problem was we don't have the bandwidth to deal with that. And I don't want to put something in our ordinance that we're not going to enforce. That's my only, the other one was a no-brainer. This one gives me a little pause on how it would be enforced in Doraville. And, maybe the city manager can weigh in on, I hate to drag you all the way across the room, but are we gonna have the bandwidth to manage something like this?
Well, could we maybe also, it seems more like this is a tool for when you come across
Yes.
a situation and you can say, was this your first litter? Okay, well, you need to have it registered. And then if you see this same group in the parking lot or the safe space or wherever they're transferring, then you can say, well, you're not a registered pet dealer. I think it's more a tool for future enforcement. I don't think,
Yeah.
I seriously doubt that
We're not going around.
Doraville Animal Control is going to be out.
No, and Sherry mentioned it, as Mayor Geierman said, that it's more of an education up front. Like you go and check, and you can check on that house if they're registered, and it's a state or countywide registry. It's not just specifically here. It's controlled somewhere else that you can go and check, correct? Or is this a registry?
I'd expected that it would be a local registry.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you couldn't collaborate.
Yeah, we can talk about that, but more of like an education piece, like,
Well, I
hey,
get that, but what you just said, it's gonna be a local database. Are we gonna maintain that?
Is it? I thought you were trying to get us onto the DeKalb one.
yeah, we're trying to get on with the ordinance with the cab.
Okay, and that may be a piece that I'm just not familiar with. I don't know if Peggy is spoken to that.
I can check with Lisa Mylan on that, but I assume it would be because you use the shovel. So I would assume it'd be on, because that's where it'd be housed with the cab and.
If the registry is being maintained like by DeKalb County or something, I don't have any, and don't get me wrong,
And that's something we can get more answers on. And
I could see us having, historically, we've had issues with, the city maintaining databases on kind of more obscure things. We had a gravel driveway registry, which I bet if I ask city staff, where is the gravel driveway registry from 20 years ago? Nobody's going to know where it is. And I just don't want to have something that is depending on a local database that we may or may not be able to have, and having like this obscure ordinance on our books. That's not.
I guess
That's
my interpretation of what Councilmember Simmons was doing was actually, this will allow us to participate in the ordinance that the county just passed and participate in the list that they had.
yes,
I agree with you. I
That's
don't
no problem.
particularly want the city.
If we're doing DeKalb County's list, 100% on board.
yeah.
I just don't want us to be duplicating a micro version of what the county, we don't have a shelter. We're in partnership with them. I'm fine with us mirroring what DeKalb County ordinance is, but without the overhead, if that makes sense. That's my own.
No, and we can look and make sure on that, but I would go along.
And we can.
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
when
the
we
next
bring
one.
it back.
And I just wanted to bring
And-
up my one concern about, just adding that to what the city's doing, and then the county's database doesn't matching up with ours, and we're gonna,
But on a different note, how hard would it be for Esri to have it for GIS, and that'd be the registry if you just enter it, right? If animal control, does it work like that,
I
Chris?
think it's more important that DeKalb,
Does it work like that? Okay, no, I'm just wondering if like Patrick came in, is like, boom, that's it. Put it in Esri GIS, but that's a different story. We'll come back.
I think it'd be good if you were able to work with
Island.
Cecil on how do we tie it into what the county's doing,
Okay.
because I think that's where the benefit is
Mm-hmm.
in adopting this, I think.
And it
Right.
helps
it's back
them.
to what you're saying, that let's say it's just local to Dorville. Okay. Then they get busted here. They're not in our registry. Then they go to DeKalb County.
Mhm.
And then they go to it, and let's say that every city in DeKalb County has their own database and their own registry, then the people can just skip around between the different cities. And we're not doing what we're trying to do, where if there was a more central database for this registry thing with DeKalb County, then it would cover the whole county and people couldn't game the system, if that makes sense too.
I think it's an excellent point. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was my only, otherwise I'm great with it.
That was great. I noted it, so I'll talk with Cecil. And
Yep, figure that out.
All right, Councilmember Armistead?
Yes, I agree. So thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come back with.
Councilmember Henshaw?
Yeah, Steffi's right on point with that. I did have a question. We have a number of people who they don't adopt, stray cats, but they do collect stray cats, bring them to shelters, have them spayed and neutered. We have a program that's a voucher that helps actually fund that. I wouldn't want them to get penalized for bringing in. So I don't know if I don't know if they just say, I'm part of this program. I'm bringing this cat. I'm not selling a cat. I'm just giving them to the county. So I want to make sure that those people don't get penalized or somehow caught up in this, because what they're doing is a very good thing. And they don't need to be. So as long as we can separate those two items out and address that concern, I'm 100%.
So I can see, and it's a little bit buried in the ordinance, but there who's turning over an animal to the shelter cannot be cited for this. So if you inadvertently produce a litter and you turn them over, then you're not in violation. I think so. Athens Art County also has their ordinance. I think it'd be very easy to add an exemption for those if you all think that that's necessary. So whatever you call them here.
I just want to make sure that they don't get dinged. But other than that, it's
No, I noted that when she said that because we do.
This is also like enticement for those folks, not to just feed the cats, but to actually get
have
them
them spay and neuter.
neutered.
Because we have a TNR program here where we pay for feral cat communities. Take it to Lifeline, 8 o'clock, drop it off. They'll spay and neuter it, give it back, and release the cat back in the community. It's paid for by Dorville. So,
And I should say Athens Art County also has a similar program. And what in the past, my job has been to sort of advocate for, to help explain, is that people who are participating in the program are in fact official colony caretakers. It's the people who are not participating in the program, aren't getting the TNR, and are just caring for these colony cats. And that's when we have the problem. So however you all want to distinguish that, though, I think is very appropriate.
Well, I think that would be good to have an exemption that if you're a TNR participant, then this doesn't apply to you, because I don't want, like my neighbors, I didn't even know she was doing it. She had a cat in a trap, and she goes, yeah, we started doing that. It's really, I really want to try to help the cats in the neighborhood. And I wouldn't want her to get tripped up in this thing. So some way of if they have brought, because I'm sure they give who they are when they go to Lifeline, that there's a history of them doing things for the cat colony or the feral cat colony, that they're exempt from this whole thing.
I don't know. My mother-in-law feeds feral cats. Maybe we leave it on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't tell her, Mary.
Did you have anything else? Good. All right. So it sounds like
Get with
it's
Cecil.
also okay for you to work with Cecil, and
Thanks.
I think there's a little bit more to dig into on this one.
Definitely. And Sherry, thank you. And actually, I need to talk to you after. I'm adopting from Madison Oglethorpe. Yeah, Marmy is her name.
So this is great. What a wonderful connection.
I
Thank
know.
you so much.
Talk to you afterwards.
Yes, that's awesome.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All have a great evening.
You too. All right. I've been asked to have an executive session related to personnel and litigation. So we'll go into executive session after council comments. But why don't we start council comments with Councilmember Evans?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this was a great meeting and glad to see the additional artwork coming into the community. Also, people unaware, I think some Dorville residents were affected from a water outage in DeKalb County off of Chamblee Dunwoody Road. There was a 6-inch water main break this morning that I think they're still correcting now by the Dunwoody Nature Center. So some residents in District 1 have brown water. So there is a boil advisory for that. That's it.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Kuntz.
The consent agenda, and I didn't want, that's one danger of having these consent agendas, important things that are happening in the city just could get slipped through on that. There's a sidewalk on Peachtree Industrial over on the Dunwoody side that's been much needed for a long time. And previous council member was really advocating for this. I also became a big advocate for it. And it shows the value in spending money on doing the planning and engineering for a project ahead of having the funding. Sometimes, even in the past, I looked at it, it's like, why are we spending money on plans for something we don't have the money to build? And we had a grant with DeKalb County, which I want to also thank Lorraine and Robert Patrick and other folks that helped this get through. It was a community block grant. There's extra money that we were approved that we didn't spend. And because we had this plan, like shovel ready, it's like, here's what it's going to cost. Here's the plan. It needs to be done. It's between Doraville and Dunwoody. It's really serving Dunwoody residents more than Doraville residents, but it's in our city limits. They let us use that grant money to build this sidewalk that services both cities. And I'm just really happy to see that this project's getting done, and they're going to be pouring concrete this summer. And again, thanks to DeKalb County for their block grant program and allowing us to use these additional funds in this new area. And I'm really excited to see that happen.
Thank you. Councilmember Henshaw.
I consider myself a fairly tech savvy human being. I work every day on computers, yet 2 nights ago, my Facebook account was hacked through a brute force attack and some data breach somewhere where one of my passwords got leaked. And I got, while sleeping, hundreds of different login attempts, and eventually they got in. They then enabled two-factor authentication, kicked me out, defriended all my friends and family, and then posted a spam post, which was savvy enough for multiple people that I know, friends and family, to send somebody money. Do not take online cybersecurity with anything but the greatest care. I spent $500 of my own money hiring an anti-hacking company. We got my account back today, then re-enabled two-factor authentication for myself. I had disabled it because I was traveling overseas and wasn't able to use my phone to authenticate. It was a pain. So I apologize to anyone who might have gotten, taken advantage of. It's not fun. But if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. We go through training here as council. I didn't do anything wrong other than not having two-factor authentication in place. So this is just a good lesson. I don't mind telling people that if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. I have filed a police report that will be followed up with a report to the GBI. And I'm working with Meta officials to get my city council member page back, which they also took. So if any communication comes from my city council member Facebook page in the meantime, please ignore it. I have no access to it whatsoever. I don't even know if it still exists or not, but I just thought I'd use this as a sharing opportunity so people understand that it can happen to anybody. And it took a lot of my time and a lot of my money to get it back. And I'm very lucky that I got it back as quickly as I did. So not everybody would be this lucky. So that's sharing is caring. So I want you all to know it can happen to anybody, and just stay savvy out there. When in doubt, hire a company to help you protect your accounts. So that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Armistead.
I'm going to take a page from Councilmember Simmons's book tonight and say that if all of these cute puppies that you've seen in these presentations are inspiring you, you should go to one of the Lifeline shelters and adopt a pet. We just adopted our most recent rescue a couple weeks ago off the euthanasia list, and she's amazing. So please go save a dog or a cat if you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Simmons.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, adoption's the best. The animals know it. 56 running of Peachtree was this past Friday, and over 52,000 people were there, which is like second highest after their 50th anniversary. So it was really cool to see everyone back. When COVID came, it was dead. 2021, they did 2 days, but it was back to party status on Peachtree on July 4th. Beers were flying across the road and shots were taken, Jello shots there. It was hilarious. So even if you don't run, go walk the Peachtree. You'll have a blast.
I was there too, Warren.
July 4th. Oh, were you running or drinking?
No, running, walking, jogging.
There you go. So thank you.
All right, and Councilmember Ray.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first, this is our first meeting at the new location. So shout out to city staff. You guys did an awesome job getting all this moved and set up. And I like the screen now that we can look at the PowerPoints as they go on. So thank you for that. Secondly, wanted to just address a couple people talked about the zoning coming up. I've heard about it from other people. It's always a hot button issue. It's something I'm pretty passionate about. So if anyone has questions or comments or wants their thoughts to be heard, please reach out to any of us but me. I'm always willing to talk about it. And regardless of how you feel about it, come to the meetings as we talk about it with an open mind to why things like this are getting looked into. But thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Would anyone like to make a motion to go into executive session? Oh, sorry, Councilmember.
No, and also wanted to thank George Chitty for being here. The press and free press is a huge part of our freedom in our country, and people being able to ask hard questions of us and any elected official. And you know, I know some of the situation that happened. We're in a place now where the federal government is putting local police departments between a rock and a hard place as far as this immigration stuff. And I do think it's important, as the gentleman from Decatur said, we've worked very hard as a city, and kudos to our police department for all the hard work they've done on creating a good relationship between the immigrant population and our police department, where they feel safe here. I don't want that to change. And I'm not sure what the pathway is without, I know that you can put a target on your city's back by speaking too strongly against this stuff, and they can paint you as a sanctuary, quote, sanctuary city, even though you're not, and try to kill your funding or just have the state target you for political purposes. And we obviously don't want that either. And I'm probably maybe even speaking too much saying this, but just my heart's telling me that we need to let the community know that we take this very seriously. And thank you, George, for being here tonight.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion to go into executive session regarding personnel and litigation matters?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Are we going to end the meeting before?
No,
This,
after.
we have to end the meeting after, but the YouTube and whatever.
The same as
portion
it
will-
has been in the past.
Yeah. So we're going to gavel out at the end, and anyone who wants to stay can come in and watch us gavel out, but you don't have to. So. All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
But I was able to get.